Heavenly Father, today we put on the full armor to protect us against attack. We put on the belt of truth to protect against lies and deception. We put on the breastplate of righteousness to protect our hearts from the temptations. We put the gospel of peace on our feet to walk in your light, peace, and freedom with the Holy Spirit. We rebuke anxious thoughts. We take up your shield of faith for protection to block and destroy all the darts and threats thrown at us by the enemy. We put on the helmet of salvation to cover our minds and thoughts, reminding us that we are children of a mighty King. We are forgiven, set free, saved by the blood of Jesus. We take up the sword of the Spirit, your living word, that has the power to demolish strongholds and is sharper than any double-edged sword. We come to you, Lord, in prayer daily. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I'm honored to introduce you all to MK Ultra, Freemason, Eastern Star, military abuse, and CPS survivor and whistleblower, targeted individual, gate kid, cat mama, happy girlfriend to a loving partner, devoted listener and supporter of The Imagination for years now, and someone I'm honored to call a dear friend, Haylee Graves. Haylee was born into a multi-generational incest-based family and has been targeted since birth. She has suffered a multitude of abuses in her life, including incest, mind control and MKUltra, Masonic and Eastern Star abuse, abuse at the hands of our military, targeting, frequency and electronic mind control, and so much more. She was also, at one point in her life, at the center of a CPS scandal and was heavily abused at her own home. Haylee had nowhere to go for safety. School wasn't even safe, as she was entered into the gifted and talented GATE programs where her abuse continued. Haylee's story touches on many aspects of this puzzle we are trying to put together on this podcast, and I'm thrilled to finally get to share Haylee's story. If you have joined any of the live chats we host in the evenings we premiere new episodes of The Imagination, you have likely seen Haylee in the chats over the years supporting the survivors on this podcast and those who are in the chat. Haylee is also active on social media, and especially on X, where she both supports survivors and targeted individuals and shares pieces of her own story and healing to help others who are following her who are going through the same things. I'm honored we finally get to hear Haylee's story in full after all these years of having her support, and I know her piece of the puzzle will be extremely valuable for many of you on the other side of the screen. I'm also thrilled to learn from Haylee, as her story is an example of how abuse for many survivors is on a continuum throughout their lives. When one form of abuse stops, another begins, which is the very opposite of how society perceives abuse. Some survivors are really never free, as you'll hear more about today. Even though Haylee's childhood abuse is over, she is now being targeted with frequencies and electronic mind control and continues to learn, research, and share ways to cope with the nonstop abuse she experiences. Because Haylee's story covers so much ground, we will likely be doing at least 2 podcast episodes to really dive into Haylee's childhood and also give her time to discuss her targeting, as both of these topics will be very beneficial for all of you to hear and for us to cover in depth. I truly admire Haylee, both for her courage to stand up for other survivors and TIs, and for her bravery to speak out and to share her story with the world. I know so many of you will benefit from listening to the information you will be presented today, and I ask you all to please put away whatever you're doing and give her your full attention. Haylee quite literally has a target on her back already. And if I could please ask all of you on the other side of the screen to please pray for her and her partner's continued safety as she selflessly goes public with her story in hopes that it can and will inspire, give hope to, and educate those of you with us today. I honor Haylee for trusting us with her testimony, and I'm thrilled to watch her drown the darkness today with the eternal light that exists and her now unsilenced voice, big heart, and unbreakable spirit. Before I finish introducing today's guest, I wanted to give just a couple quick reminders and updates. If you'd like to be on the show, share any information privately with me, or send me a written testimony for my upcoming book series, or to be written in a Substack article, you can email me at imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com or standbysurvivors@protonmail.com. As some of you know, my YouTube channel was recently terminated, and I'm being forced to pivot and use other streaming platforms to get this information out to the public and disclosure communities. Your support would mean the world to me on platforms like Rumble and X, where I am currently streaming. I also just started another YouTube channel with the handle at Imagination Podcast Official that I will be rebuilding. And I'd love to have you all subscribe there as well while I figure out how my new presence on YouTube will look in order to dodge the censorship and backlash for speaking out on these difficult topics. Thank you all for helping to make the imagination the safest space on the internet for survivor, whistleblower, advocate, and educator disclosures. So, you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming today's guest of honor, woman of God, voice for the voiceless, survivor, overcomer, targeted individual, and anti-child abuse advocate, walking miracle, survivor, and absolute warrior, the one, the only, Haylee Graves. Haylee, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much. That was such a sweet intro. I'm trying like not. I really
I really
appreciate that
appreciate you. You have been such a big support of this
a lot.
podcast, and it's been really awesome kind of getting to know you. You know, like I said when we walked on, I feel like I already know you. It's really neat to finally get to put a face to the name and to get to actually be here with you today. And I know it's going to mean a lot to everybody in the community who's familiar with you and who has gotten your support for their story. Now we finally get to hear yours. So it's really an honor to have you on, Haylee. And I'm so proud of you for finally going public with your story. And I wanted to actually kind of start with that because you have been sort of, I know you've done another podcast, you've talked some about your targeting, you've talked about some of your story online, but this is really the first time that you're going to be sharing your childhood and sort of combining these two aspects of your stories, what you went through as a kid and then what you're still going through as an adult. And it's a really big step. So I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about that and to share how you decided to make that big decision.
So, as a child, I went through some serious abuse, physical, sexual, and mental. And then as an adult, I became a targeted individual and things started unraveling. And I had like memories come up that were like, oh, wow, that makes more sense now. Um, and I started learning that there's millions of target individuals everywhere. And not only that, there's so many children that are abused by that tech and by government sponsored mind control and sex abuse and human trafficking, all this. It's so horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And I had, I just have to speak out against this because if it doesn't get exposed, it's going to continue. And this needs to be um, a normal conversation in everyday life. You know, people need to be looking into these signs if it's happening to their family, if it's happening to their children, if it's happening to their friends or their neighbors, you know? And yeah, God has led me to really speak out against this. So I want to connect with other people too. If anybody is going through these things or can help me with understanding some puzzle pieces of my life, or if they want to share theirs with me, I would highly appreciate it. Anybody can email me. So I can put my email in the like comments, or if you want to share it with them, or so that way we don't just say it on here and or whatever you want to do.
Absolutely. However you want to do that. I can definitely put it in the show notes. And yeah, we can put it as a comment too, and people can just go below and get that if that works for you. And then we'll also share, we'll share your Twitter page later too. People can maybe also reach out to you there if they want to do it that way too, if that works.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that would
Perfect.
be wonderful.
I'm so proud of you. That's one thing I've noticed. Nobody wants to be a whistleblower.
Thank
There's a
you.
million other things I know that you'd rather be
Yeah.
talking about. You're brilliant, you're beautiful, you're involved in so many different things. You have so much good in your life, and there's so much good that you could be talking about. Yet survivors always come back who end up speaking out because they're passionate about bringing awareness to it so we can stop it happening from others. And it's you're a hero for doing that.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
amazing that, you know,
Thank
you're
you.
in a place where you can, and we're going to be giving a voice to a lot of people today, both who went
Yeah.
through things that you did as a child, and then, you know, the people that are still going through the stuff that you did and are as an adult. So I'm really proud of you, Haylee. It's a big step, and I know that there's going to be a lot of value
Thank you.
provided in this conversation. You have a big piece of the puzzle. So let's go back in time. You have a
Okay.
very interesting family history that I think really contributes to how
Yeah.
you got set up to, be the next generation that this got passed down to. So I'd love for you to maybe lay the foundation of what your family history was like before you were here, and to share any key things that were important to leading up to you being put into these programs.
Okay. Yeah. So, on both sides of my family, there's multi-generational abuse, and it goes on my mom's side at least 3 generations, and on my dad's side 4 generations. On my dad's side of the family, there is 33rd degree Freemasons, Eastern Stars. Um, Also, there is my grandpa. He says that he was connected to the CIA, which I don't know if I fully believe or not, but I mean, it very well could be. Also and then on my mom's side of the family, um, there is military psychiatrists that are, I believe, programmers, and I'm also a bad angel, and so there, yeah, and MK Ultra and targeting heavily and splitting on my mom's side. So, yeah, and not only that, but there was sexual abuse, physical abuse, and emotional abuse on both sides. Um, Growing up, I had actually thought that it was normal for everyone to be touched as a kid and to be touched by like multiple people, and for their families to, like, everyone to be touched and to touch each other. It's really disgusting and embarrassing, but I mean, it's the truth. Um, so yeah, that's um, and not only that, but so on my dad's side of the family, there is 33rd degree Freemasons, Eastern Stars, and my grandpa, so my dad's dad, had said that he had worked with the CIA. And I don't know if I totally am like 100% believe that, but it's a possibility with all the very bizarre things. There's a lot of bizarre things. My dad's side of the family, they cover up for the abusers. And it's how everybody is in the family. Keep in mind, there's incest and sexual abuse on both sides of the family. But my dad's side in particular, um, a more sexual abuse. And it starts with the 33rd degree Freemason. And he basically would take the children on my grandma's cousins, and he sexually abused all of them and would torture them. And her parents had to give her to him once a month, and I believe it was for ritualistic purposes. But and during these time periods, I believe that it was for splitting and fragmenting. It had traumatized the whole family, and so everyone had covered up for the Freemason. And like, for instance, not that long ago, my grandma, she'd be like, "Oh, he was just a man of the time, and men of that time just touched their kids," and that's not true, but that's what she thinks. And she'll still, it's really sad, she'll still say he's a good man, but a lot of horrible things programmed too. But basically, they had learned to cover up for the abuser. So if they're, and my grandma, she was given to him by her mom and dad, so she had nobody to trust, and nobody to be. She told me that she would hide in the barn as a child, and she would literally have the mom would be like, "Oh my," so my great grandma would be like, "No, you have to do this. Let's just get it over with." And she also was abused too. Yeah, so there's a lot of sex abuse. Um, and a lot of torture and disgusting, disgusting things. And in the later years, so my grandma had learned, and my grandma learned by her family to not say anything and to cover up. And if you do say anything, you get silenced very, very fast. Um, and I ended up moving in with her. And from her having that experience and that abuse, she kind of did the same thing with her kids. So my dad and my aunts. And my dad was actually sexually abused too. And it's really unfortunate because I was talking to my therapist, and she said that it's like statistically that men who are sexually abused, they have like a higher percentage of re-abusing in the same exact way in the same situation. But anyways, so that's my dad's side of the family, and they also learn to like, how do I say this, like hide within society and roles that people wouldn't expect uh such people to do, like covering up and things like that. You know what I mean? Like my grandma's a school teacher, and when I ended up being placed in her care, I had to go to the same school as her, and I was trying to speak out against the abuse. I was forced to see my dad, and my grandma just thought that, like, you know, if she, just told people I was lying, or my mom made me say that eventually it would just stop and I'd get over it. Because that's what she was taught, and so it's really dysfunctional, and there's a lot of things. I do have a better relationship with my grandma now, but it's still very, very painful, very painful. And my mom's side of the family, my mom, she was sexually abused as a kid by her stepdad. And she told Nana, which is her mom, and Nana basically bought her a kitten, told her, oh, let's just ignore this. So my mom learned too on that side that you can't say anything. Like, no, everyone's just going to ignore what had happened. But my mom, in my childhood, she was the only one that really fought for me. She knew it was wrong. And my mom, like, not only that, she had, for like 3 or 4 years, she had lived at Oregon State University, or OHSU. So it's Oregon Health and Science University, where they would do programming. I was in there at MK Ultra on her because she was so traumatized. Yeah. And there were times that she would act like she was a baby, like if she get really stressed out. And I don't know what exactly, it just didn't feel right. It reminds me a lot of splitting. But yeah, and then so my mom's mom, Nana, she had married this guy who was in the Hells Angels, and my Nana was like, she was also like abused and not wanted. This is like in the 1950s. She was Norwegian, and we don't really know what his dad is, but everyone would call him, excuse my language, her a little Jew girl, because she was darker skin and she looked Jewish. He is a military psychiatrist, and he also had seriously abused, like almost the same as the Freemason. And what's very weird is he changed his name when he came here from Europe. We don't know what country he came from, but he changed his name, and his name matches up. It's Jack Sharkey, and it matches up with another person who was like a boxer, a famous boxer during that time period. So we really have no information on him, but he left a huge mess behind him. And so I believe that he was doing things to my Grandma Gigi and my Nana. And my mom's side of the family, they also have ties to the occult. They had lived in New Orleans, and New Orleans is like a hotbed for the occult. A lot of people do voodoo, a lot of subgroups that, like, there's multiple cultures there, and they will take certain practices and like mix it in with, make their own little, how do I say this? Like their own little recipe, I guess, of witchcraft. And so my mom's side of the family, we were all here in Jesus. Also Grandma Gigi, there was like a connection to the KKK on her side of the family too. Yeah. But they ended up leaving New Orleans when I was a little girl, and I would do things wrong. My Grandma Gigi would say she'd make voodoo dolls out of us to like scare us, but it was terrifying as a kid. Yeah, she'd be like, say a lot of bad things. And she knew witchcraft, she knew voodoo. So it was very scary. And it was like, if you don't clean your room, I'll make a voodoo doll out of you and set it above fire and poke it with pens. And that's abuse in itself that I haven't fully like accepted, because I don't know, it's not a joke. You don't just joke like that, but that just shows how like traumatized they all were, you know. But yeah, so her husband, so my mom's grandpa was the military psychiatrist who's a programmer. He had it's really disgusting. He had took uncle, so it's my mom's uncle. So he'd be like my great uncle, and she'd be my great aunt, which they were my nana's brother and sister. And they had a different dog, would tie up and then molest Aunt in front of him and say all kinds of horrible things like, you can't save your sister, this and that. So years later, he was an artist, but he'd have to get so drunk to just leave the house. And she was really close to my mom, but she had a lot of not so savory people in her life. She ended up marrying this guy who was basically like I don't want to say mafia, but like just kind of a dirt bag that got into some really, really bad things. And she ended up, she got murdered, basically. He was dating the nurse, and she had, I'm trying to remember what it is, but it's basically where her muscles turned on. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's not muscular dystrophy. It's something her sleeping with. She ended up accidentally forgetting to change it for too long, and she passed. So a lot of very bizarre things in my family line.
Oh my gosh. And do you know, I know that you said that you had a programmer actually in your family. Can you look back and see programming? Did you
Yes.
notice like switching and different things like that as an
Yes.
adult now? Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt, to my mom, to Nana, and to Gigi. So my mom's mom is Nana, and my mom's mom is Gigi, my great grandma. Um, my mom, like I had mentioned, she would act like a baby at times, and also she was at Oregon Health and Science University too as a preteen for years. But Nana would do the same thing where she'd act like a baby at times, and I don't know if it was learned, but I believe it was the programming. And then she's $2 dolls out of you, motherfucker. Excuse my language, but that's Candy. Just very weird, and yeah, and it was with stressful situations that would make them do that. So, and yeah, and then he disappeared. So he abused everybody, disappeared. Nobody has his real name. Nobody has anything. But I mean, he like seriously abused everybody, and it just followed down the line where, and disassociation is a huge part in this too. Like I have severe disassociation, and my mom's side of the family would have it too. Even my dad's side of the family has it. Not as bad, but like mom's side of the family, there is a military programmer. I believe that he was a programmer, but he was a military psychiatrist, and every person that was around him, family, was not only seriously abused and traumatized, but I believe it is for trauma-based mind control. Every person, and here's another bizarre thing too. So I don't know his real name. He said his name was Jack Sharkey. He said he came here from Europe. The dude did not look European. He looked Muslim or Lebanese or something like that. And also he is named Jack Sharkey, and Jack Sharkey in that period, the 50s, was like a famous boxer. So it's like, and nobody has any information on him after he had came and basically had a child with my great grandma and had abused everybody. He just packed up and left, and that was it. Nobody heard anything from him again. So it was, but there continued to be abuse though, like down the line after he left.
Wow. Oh my gosh, you have such an incredible history that you were able to trace it back that far and sort of like remember these key points and then get information from maybe family members on some others. Because that's a thing too that, society is very ignorant on is that abuse can be multi-generational. That seems very obscure for people
Yep.
to understand, but it's actually like a really big part of these stories because like you said, dissociation can also be
Yeah.
on and it can sort of like be enhanced
Yep.
throughout the years, the more generations that do it. So I really appreciate you painting that
Yep.
foundation. Now, as far as your parents
Thank
go,
you.
how did like kind of what's their story? What did they do for a living and how many children did they end up having?
So my mom, she was actually, I know that she was on Social Security because of her PTSD as well. Not only that, but she had it. So it's really, really weird. She was having all kinds of bizarre issues with her body. She was always sick. Um, she did have lupus. She stayed in OHSU for 3 to 4 years as a preteen. But she just had me, Cody, and Jesse. She did always want to do psychology, and she wanted to understand abuse, like why people abused. So, and then my dad, he he was a pizza delivery guy, and he also did construction. He does construction now. And he had me and my two brothers. And then after he left my mom, he had three more girls with my stepmom. So yeah.
And so, sort of painting that picture, were all the children in your family abused? And like, what did your very early childhood years look like?
So me, Cody, and Jesse were abused. Um, I do know one of my sisters um, is abused as well. But so basically, my first memories growing up is me. So my mom had gotten chicken pox from us, and because she had an autoimmune disease, she has lupus or had lupus. She never had chicken pox as a kid. We ended up giving them to her, when we were children. So she got it as an adult, and she was in the hospital. We were told that she was going to die, and that's one of my youngest memories. And during that same period of time, um, I have another memory. It's during the same time period where my dad is holding me with these two other guys. So my dad's holding me, and my legs are spread on the bed. And there's these two guys. One of them is named Fred and actually worked with my uncle in construction, and he had molested my cousin Kirsty. And I don't know the other guy's name, but he was a darker man. And I thought that they were putting a bumpy hot dog in me, and it wasn't. It's a dildo. I just didn't, as a child, I was like, why are they putting a bumpy hot dog in me? And I remember turning my head and looking at the flower bedding, and it's like a part of me broke there. So it was really, really horrible. I felt really disgusting and yucky. I just remember how disgusting it felt. Like I did not like the way it felt. Like this dirty, bumpy hot dog, I thought, but it wasn't a hot dog. So I had my legs spread on the bed, and I would say like 4 at the time period, and pretty foul. And that's when during that same time period is when I started to seriously disassociate. And then in the same time, so I had severe disassociation in the same time period. It got so bad that I'd go up to everybody and be like, am I dreaming? Is this real? Am I real? Is this really happening? And when I was 5 years old, me and my brothers, we were diagnosed with PTSD by our primary doctor, Dr. Miller. Um, and my mom, she she was questioning. She's like, what the hell's going on? Why do my kids have PTSD? Why does Haylee have it this bad? And I would ask everybody, like even in school, I'd be like, is this real? So I couldn't even focus on a lot of things as a child. And then also during this time period, I was molested multiple times by my dad. And during that, so also my dad, he was not only abusing me, he was abusing me and my brothers together in the shower. Like he would put baby oil all over his body and pick us up, and we thought it was a game, but it's not a game. And he would have an erection and he'd pick us up and like move us up and down on his stomach in privates, and like take turns with us. There was no penetration, but at that time. But yeah, and then my dad, he would we'd constantly hear my mom being raped. We'd hear her scream, no, no, and the bed start squeaking. And during this time period too, so my dad was on meth and steroids and doing bodybuilding. So, and I mean, like he was big, like big and muscular. He's like 6'2" and almost like 290, just solid muscle. And so there was no like fighting. There was no. But and during the same time period, we moved from the trailer out to this home, and this home ultimately ended up being it was horrible. I believe it was a psyop, the whole house, or extremely haunted, or both. And that was super traumatizing.
Where were you
This
born at?
home, oh, so I was born in Portland, Oregon, but I moved to Vancouver, Washington.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so yeah. Um, and this home is literally right next to school, right next to Marion Elementary. And the first day that we moved in there, and so keep in mind, before this point, my mom and my dad broke up. And at this time, I did not tell my mom what was happening. My mom would constantly like bring me into the bedroom and be like, what's happening? Is somebody touching you? Is something happening? And I would get so upset that I would scream and slam doors and be like, no, nothing's happening. Leave me alone. I hate you. And she'd be like, well, why are you saying you hate me? What is going on, Haylee? This isn't normal. She would ask me if my dad molested me. She'd be like, does your dad touch you? So I feel like and so there's another time too. Keep in mind, my mom, she was on pain pills for like her pain. This is like in the early 2000s when doctors were just giving out Oxycontin like no other. So there was a time I was 5 years old, and I was in my parents' bed, and my mom was sound asleep because she was on pills. Well, Oxycontin and Valium and all kinds of stuff. And my dad, and I'm in between him and my dad, spreads my underwear, and I'm 5, and sticks his finger inside of me. And I freeze, and he just kept his finger in me. And I froze, and I was so scared because I was like, I'm just going to, and I don't know why I thought that. I was like, I'm just going to pretend that I'm asleep. And it felt like forever. But then he took it out. He didn't like move it around or anything. He just took it out. And then years later, when I confronted him on it, he said that he thought I was my mom because my mom was tiny. I was 5 years old. My mom is 5'1". And yes, my mom was anorexic, but it's totally different body, you know. So yeah, but during this time period, I didn't tell my mom what had happened, but my mom found my dad cheating, doing all kinds of things. And so we moved out of the trailer, and it was just going to be us at first in this house. But the first day that we move in, this is right by Marion Elementary. And it was like a perfect deal. The home, so my mom was on Section 8, and for the whole home, it was like $300 a month. And this is in the early 2000s. Yeah, right at the year 2000. Yeah, there's mom and me. But yeah, so the first day that we went there. We were still staying at the trailer at the time. We had like 3 or 4 days left living in the trailer before we moved to this house. And my mom was cleaning the shower. We were like cleaning things, and I was just there like playing with toys. But it was just me and my mom. And my mom goes in the shower, and it was probably like not even 30 minutes of us being there. And all the doors start opening and closing, like all of the doors in the whole entire house, not the front door, but all the cabinets, all the doors, everything starts slamming, opening, and closing really, really fast, like really, really fast. Yeah. And then my mom comes running out of the shower. I froze in the hallway, and I was a little kid, and I did pee a little bit. My mom and I was just frozen. I can't even tell you. It was like a different fear. I knew that it was something. It was demonic. Whatever it was demonic. It was so evil, and I could feel it, and it made me frozen. Keep in mind, in this house too, it felt as if you were right before lightning's about to strike. You could feel energy in the air, and it's like that, like a super, like you could feel the static electricity in the air, but in this house, and it was thick. It was like, so it was heavy and thick, like you felt pressure all over your body in this house. Anyways, my mom comes running out from the shower, and she picks me up. We drop right back. We like turn around at the front door, and then she's like, "Get out of my mother effing house in the name of Jesus now." Or no, she said, "In the name of Jesus, get the F out of my mother effing house now." The doors all stop slamming shut, and we feel like it feels like stomping, and we're frozen. My mom actually said that like she was kind of scared too. You could tell she was a Spitfire, but she was like 5'1" and really tiny, and she's scared too. I mean, it was just us. And so right from the hallway, we're behind the French doors, and directly to the right, there is a laundry room that connects to the garage. Well, all of a sudden, the door to the laundry room in the garage swings open and slams shut to the point where the whole foundation of the house shook. And we were terrified. And unfortunately, my mom, we had to go get my dad. So after they broke up, this was one of the reasons why she had actually had him come move back into the house. This is before we told her that we were abused too. But multiple horrible things had happened in that house. Everybody was sick in the house. We would see like there was a smoky, misty guy in the closet that had this arm that like came out like this at me, Cody, and Jesse from the closet while my mom's in the shower in her bedroom. She had like a bedroom with a shower in it, and we're literally outside of her door. And keep in mind, the person who lived there before, they had said that their kids played with a Ouija board in the house, and that they opened up portals and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it was horrible. And so we had that incident. And then other people, I'd have friends that would come stay the night at the house. And keep in mind, I was 7 and they were like 7 or 8 too. So we're all the same age. They said that they had seen my mom floating. It looked like her literally floating off the ground, just in the hallway. And then my Nana had said that she saw like a man in like what's it called? Like an old 50s outfit, like a gas attendant, but like in a full suit. Um, and not only that, but there was a time, there was just so many weird things. We were seeing orbs circle the house. I thought it was pee. Here's the thing too about this home. The reason why I keep going back to think it was a psyop was because everything was so intense. It was almost like a movie. You know what I mean? Um, and I've heard, I'm a target individual, and I've heard that these psyops are literally riddled all across the United States for these frequency weapons to be used on whole families. And a lot of it mimics hauntings, though. Like frequencies can move things. They can make noises. They can be noises in your head. They can put images and thoughts in your mind. They can do holograms, do all kinds of things. Also, one time I was sitting on my brother's bed, and I'm I'm a little kid, and I'm like laying on my stomach with my arms like this, and then my feet tied up in the back, and I see this thing coming. Oh, I like look up, and at first thought it was a piece of my hair, and it starts coming down, and it was my dad's face. And keep in mind, this was after I had told that I was sexually abused, and he was not allowed at the house. Yeah. But because my mom was constantly sick, having to go, she would go in and out of the hospital. Nobody else would take care of us. So my dad would get called to come take care of us. Yeah, it's a really, really messed up, fucked up story. It was a horrible, horrible time in my life. Anyways, anyways, yeah, so there's a lot of things. And then also, we thought that someone was breaking into the house. And because we were seeing people, we thought it was people. And my mom told us too. She's like, oh, it's just the neighbors playing a joke on us, because she didn't want to tell us. Yeah, my mom didn't want to tell us because we're little that, like, oh, yeah, this is evil. Now, keep in mind too, there's all kinds of weird things. My mom did tarot readings. My mom had witchcraft books. When I was a little girl, I had actually, it's really messed up. She had a book with a pentagram on it. I don't know the name, but it showed naked people with a pentagram on it, but it was like vines and stuff. And when I was a little girl, I didn't know how to read very well because I had dyslexia and I didn't know what it was. Anyways, I end up opening it up, and it's a picture of a woman having sex with a chicken in a pentagram, and it was voodoo. There's a black lady with like a giant wooden penis stick, and it's like a fertility ritual. Um, and so it's really messed up, but I was like, I just grabbed that book and I was trying to sound out the words, which is so bizarre because it was on a bottom, it was like on a lower bottom shelf too. So there's all kinds of things. My mom also had crystals. She'd have crystals flying, and the crystals would change colors. Like, so we didn't know if it was a true haunting or if it was, a psychological operation with frequencies. Also, my mom, so my dad, so one day, my dad, I'm in elementary school, I'm in like the 3rd or 4th grade. And keep in mind, during this time period, I was in a reading class that was GATE, it was GATE programming. Gifted and talented, but I had ADD, and also I had dyslexia, and but I can't fully remember all of the things that we did in that class. I just know that a lady would read a book to us, and then we would read the book, and then most of the time, it was 3 days a week, and most of the time I'd have these headphones on and I'd hear sounds coming, but it was a constant thing where they were like, if it was a hearing test, you just need to do it once. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have to do it 3 times a week and take the kid out of class, put him in a back room with, and there was like 6 other kids, but it was designed to make it just look like, oh, it's like a reading class, but it wasn't that. They were, yeah. So, anyway, so during this time period, I got seizures after, and it was really weird. I get severe seizures and migraines to the point where my head felt like it was splitting, and then I'd have a seizure shortly afterwards. And it was always triggered after I would go and get these tests done. But by the time I'd go home, I'd end up having one. And also, I had petit mal seizures where I would stare off and just see like shapes and colors. They're like aura seizures. But yeah, so during this time period, I was having seizures. I was on medication. I was on Depakote. And keep in mind, the doctor who actually, this is really messed up, Dr. Gironi from Vancouver, Washington, I believe he was with Peace Health, but he ended up getting sued, and had for $1 million because he was experimenting on kids. He was having kids, doing things to them when they did not have like legit epilepsy. And he also had prescribed me Tylenol 3s at the age of 9. Yes. So so in this whole time, so this is like the little pieces going on around this time period. So I would have seizures, and also seizures can be triggered by stress and trauma. So one day we're in this like haunted house, um, haunted house, psyop house. I'm just going to refer to it as the haunted house because I'm not totally sure if it was a psyop. I believe that it was, but I'm not totally sure. Anyways, my dad, I'm in the bathroom, and I'm like messing with my hair before I'm in the 3rd or 4th grade. And my brother Cody comes in the bathroom, and then my dad comes in the bathroom, And Cody's like, Haylee, there's not enough room in here. And my dad snaps. He grabs me by my head, and I'm a little kid, grabs me by the head and throws me into the wall. Now, keep in mind, my dad was a bodybuilder, and he was on meth and steroids. So he was extremely angry. He had so much power behind him. And as a little kid, like it just make me fly. So anyways, he threw me in the wall. And a lot of the times after I'd have a seizure, the only way that I'd know that I had one is because I wouldn't remember where I am, and I'd wake up with pee on myself, and I'd be exhausted. Like my body would just hurt because I'd have grand mal seizures. So my body would start like flailing around. Got up, walked to the living room. My mom's in the living room, and I'm like, Mom, I just had a seizure. And she's like, what happened, baby? And I was like, pushed me out of the bathroom, and I hit the wall. And my mom's like, and all of us kids are all ready, and we walk out by the front door, and my dad's like, bitch, I'll deal with you later, and puts his finger in her face like this. Well, close, not in her face, but like, bitch, I'll deal with you later. And my mom, it was so sad. Me and my brothers, we saw the fear of God in my mom, in her face. And my mom is 5'1" and less than 100 pounds in this time period. My dad is 6'2", and I would say about 280, 290. And I mean, bodybuilding all day, not all day. I mean, he would do it for a few hours throughout the day because he was doing meth and steroids. Yeah. And then he'd go to work. But, yeah. So anyways, we go to school, and I had a horrible feeling in my stomach. It was so horrible. I was so scared because I knew something was going to happen. And, that's another weird thing too. All throughout my childhood, I had really weird things, like where I'd have dreams of things that were going to happen. And I knew that it's really weird. I don't know how to describe it, but like, I just knew that things were going to happen. And sometimes I'd have dreams of it. Like, I dreamed of when I was a little girl, actually, when I first moved into this house, I had a dream of my dad, my stepmom, and my 3 sisters. And it is them. It's their exact faces, their exact body, but they're walking through a field, and they're coming towards me. And I was so upset because I was like, no, my dad's gonna have other kids. And it was just really weird. But so I'd have things like that. I don't have them anymore, but anyways, so I knew something bad was gonna happen. Anyways, we get picked up by my great grandma, my Grandma Gigi, and she picks us up early from school. And I was like, what happened? She's like, well, your dad had broke your mom's neck. And got picked up from school back at the house. My mom has this giant neck brace on, and she's on even more painkillers. And she would say things in front of us kids that were like not appropriate. Like, that's how we found out that he was trying to rape her in the hallway, grabbed her neck, and like either sprained it or broke it. But it was like, I don't remember if it was sprained or broken, because my dad's side of the family would be like, oh, it's just sprained. But my mom's side of the family, they're like, no, it was broken. Anyway, that is the day that I told my mom that we were molested. And my mom was on the couch with my Aunt Becky with a neck brace on, and with Grandma Gigi there in the kitchen, like making food. And my mom's like, well, at least he didn't do anything to the kids. And I'm like, Mom, I have something to tell you. She's like, yeah, what is it? I was like, Dad stuck his finger in me. She starts like wailing, like howling. And then my little brother Jesse's like, yeah, Dad did the same thing. And then I told her about the incident that had happened in the bed. And here's another thing too. So I had battled for years the memory with him molesting me with 2 other guys. I battled that for years because I was like, I really wanted it to be like, oh, he thought I was mom and he was sleeping. It was an accident. But this incident with him and the 2 other guys, like holding me, molesting me, there's no excuse for that. So I actually, the last 2 years, this is when I came out and had told my partner about this. I never got to tell my mom because my mom passed. But yeah, so my mom lost it that day. Um, I mean, she not totally. Her sex offender, which was her stepdad, actually got caught because he was masturbating in like a kiddie park, or not kiddie park, but like a kid park. And he was masturbating and watching the kids. He got beat up and then went to prison for it. And then that was like it. Um, So, but my mom, and she was traumatized, and that's all she ever wanted. Is she just wanted kids, and my mom would say, I had babies so that I could have something that could love me back. That's how broken my mom was. Um, so, anyways, at this point, we had she contacted CPS, Child Protective Services, which what a fucking joke. Excuse my language, but they're horrible, absolutely horrible. My mom wrote them, talked about the ages and the incidents that had happened, and it took them like 6 months to write the letter back, saying that they didn't believe us. Basically, one, because I was on Depakote, and Depakote can alter memory, and then they said that I wouldn't be able to remember that. Well, that was at 5, and I was 7 at the time, so it's only a 2-year difference. Anyway, so that day that my mom, she got a letter in the mail and she read it in the kitchen. And this is when she just lost it. Like, she was never the same again. The mother that I knew, and my mom too, like in this time period, she had, or not in this time period, like way back, like in preschool, the pictures with her in there that you had posted. My mom would go to parent teacher conferences. She was a part of the parent, what's it called? It's like a parents like participate or like volunteer in the school. You know what I mean? She would do that. She would make like treats for the kids, all kinds of things. And this is when my mom was doing so well. This is when I was really, really young though.
It's like a PTA, right?
Yeah. And she would make these things called dirt cups. My mom, she would wake us up and tickle our arms and sing to us to wake us up in the morning. Um, so when I say that she was a good mom, she was. She was the only one who believed me and who fought for me. Really. And but it's so messed up. Anyways, my mom was in the kitchen and she was reading the letter from CPS, and there's like she like slides down off the covers and she's screaming, my babies, my babies. And it was like such a horrible scream. I've never heard anything like it. Ever. I've never heard anyone make such a pitch. Sorry, I'm trying to find tissue. I've never heard anyone make such a pitch. And like she was not just defeated, but it's like she felt like she failed as a mother. Then she was failed mother. Then that was the one thing that she said she was never gonna do. She wasn't gonna let anyone touch her babies. So then it like my mom snapped. CPS wouldn't help. And keep in mind too, lots of weird things had happened. So that day that my dad had beat up my mom, my dad didn't even go to jail. The cops were called, and my mom's brother had actually came. So my mom's brother, the one who would hire pedos to work for his company, was friends with my dad for a long period of time. Like, they all grew up together. Like, my dad was my mom's sweetheart. Like, they met each other at 14. And that was like the only guy that my mom was ever with. Um, So anyways, Steve was horrible, dude, just horrible. He came up and he said that my mom was crazy and does stuff to make and makes lies. It was just absolutely insane. And my mom had strangle marks on her neck, like she had things in her. And then she was told, it's so messed up. She was told that a husband can't rape you. And because my mom, she was like fighting my dad and bit my dad's chest when he was in the hallway, like, and hurt her neck and trying to rape her. She bit him. The police said no, because you had bit him back. Like, it was insane. And then not only that, my mom's like, so my Uncle Steve came. It was absolutely insane. My Uncle Steve basically covered for my dad, and my dad was free. And then my mom's like, well, here, at least take his weed. And this is during the 2000s. Like, weed was illegal. The police literally gave him his weed back too. So that was before CPS. That's before my mom had contacted CPS. But So yeah, the police did nothing, and CPS. So my mom had contacted CPS. They didn't do a thing, and we were so afraid because, and I had nightmares of my dad. We were seeing things in the house that looked like my dad, like the thing that went above my, like, down on my head like this looked like my dad. And then my mom was constantly going in and out of the hospital because of her being sick, and she just lost it. And then my dad would show up at the house because there was nobody there to watch us or feed us. But so after that had happened twice, and my mom was like, absolutely no way. And just just horrible. But so after that had happened, when my mom would go to the hospital, nobody would like watch us except my Aunt Becky. And that'd be a few times, but my Aunt Becky, it's really sad actually. Um, she would go there to steal my mom's pain pills. So it wasn't really watching us kids. We weren't fed. And keep in mind too, so like after my mom had this mental break, she was constant. She started taking so many pain pills, and she was in bed literally like 24/7. Like she'd be in bed for like 3 days and then wake up and do the same thing again. But she wouldn't eat. When I was a little girl, during this time period, I would make like a bowl of canned soup and I bring it by her, and there's all this food that she wouldn't eat because she was anorexic. Um, anyways, it looked, I don't know how I knew this, but when I was really little, I'd go put my ear by her chest because it looked like she wasn't breathing or her heart wasn't beating. And so I'd put my ear by her chest to see if she was breathing. The heart was beating, and yeah, she was. And then I'd just leave the room. But after this, my mom also became abusive. But it's because of what had happened to her. Like, and she just snapped mentally. So in this time period, we stopped going to school because we thought my dad was going to pick us up. And my mom was just in bed at his house. But yeah, so we stopped going to school, and also we weren't getting fed. Like my mom wasn't bringing food in the house. We would open up like the fridge, and there would be like an old thing of lettuce that had like yellow or like oranges juice coming out of it. And this is in the bottom bin. And we had like a bunch of freezer burnt food, and the house got so dirty because us kids weren't cleaning and my mom wasn't cleaning. So it literally looked like hoarders. The the garbage stopped getting paid for. And so we'd have a bunch of garbage in the garage. It was horrible. It was so nasty. Like we had it was like a hoarder's house. We had maggots, very, very nasty and disgusting, flies everywhere. So
How old were you at this point?
I was 9.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was 2 years of living in that house already, and all this stuff happening. I was almost 10 years old. So CPS started getting involved, which is ironic that, like, and I mean, we shouldn't have lived like that. We should not have lived like that. And keep in mind, during this time period too, I was so disassociated. I stopped having contact with my friends. I stopped going outside. Me and my brothers, there was a Walmart that was right at the road that my mom, we were all so afraid of my dad and running into him that we would literally go to the Walmart at like, it was like a 24-hour Walmart at like 2 a.m. and like get some things. But that wasn't like an all the time thing. And here's another thing too that was really messed up. I love my mom. I just want to say that I love her. But she would have a drawer. So there was no food in the house that us kids could cook. And it was filthy, just horrible. And my mom had like a cupboard of Pepsi and candies. And you know, when you're a kid, you love candy, you love Pepsi, you love those little treats. And my mom, she just changed into a totally different person. There's no food in the house, and we would sneak into that food, take her stuff, her like food, and we'd get beat for it. And that's not like, my mom normally was not like that. Like my mom, she'd lost it. When I said she lost it, she lost it. Like my brother, she just did things that weren't herself. And it was after the abuse, after the snap, like CPS not doing anything, learning that we were molested, she just switched. It was not the mother that I knew. Anyways, like my brother Cody, he'd gotten tether cord surgery, and he was still healing from that. My dad, like, there was a time right after my brother had the tether cord surgery and was healing. This is like going backwards in time. My dad, he would just come by. This is before CPS was called too. He'd come by and just rape my mom. Like, he would come in the house. He wouldn't even say anything to us kids. He'd lock the door and we'd hear the bed squeak and my mom scream and be like, no, but you just hear and all. It's horrible. But my brother Cody, he had the tether cord surgery and he had a room with my brother Jesse. And my brother could not get up out of bed after he had that surgery. Like, he wasn't supposed to walk. And this was during that time period of right after he had it. So me and my brother Jesse were holding each other on the twin bed. And we're like, Cody, do something. Do something. My brother was 10. He couldn't do anything. And he was scared. He just had spinal surgery. We've already been beat the shit out of by my dad. He's touched us and he's just my mom screaming. And he was like, it's horrible. And then he like looked down at the ground because he's like, there's nothing I can do. But so anyways, my brother had the going forward in time with my mom. Like, and we were naughty kids. Like, we weren't, like, especially during this time period, like, we weren't going to school. We were angry. We would beat up each other. We were like just not good. Not, you know what I mean? Not like discipline and stuff. And anyway, so we were, doing like bad things, like beating up each other, breaking stuff in the house on accident, which is, being wild and crazy. And we were hungry and we took my mom's Pepsi from her drawer, and my mom lined us up and she started beating us with a belt, but she took the metal part of the belt and lined us up and started hitting my brother. Started hitting Cody in the back, and Cody's screaming and asking mom to stop. But my mom, I just want to say, my mom snapped. This was not who she was. And then there were other times too, like my mom, this is after she snapped and changed after all this, she'd be in bed and she would be like, come over the bed, and because I'd do something wrong and she wanted to smack me. And I mean, she'd smack me even though she was little. She'd sit there and smack my face, grab my hair, and I'm a little girl. And she like told me, she's like, come over to my bed. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm tired of this. I'm not coming over your bed. You get out of your bed if you're going to hit me. And this is when I was probably like 8 or 9. Anyways, she so horrible. She starts smacking. She like comes up, starts smacking me in the face. But first she like dragged me over to the bed on my arm, and then she sits back down in the bed, and I'm right here, starts smacking me in the face. And I, just as a response, I went like this, tight right here to her throat, because I saw my dad do it to her. And it was a reaction. I feel horrible about it now. Like, I feel so bad about it, but I was just a kid. And she's like, let go of me. And I was like, no, you let go of me. And she has me by my hair like this. And I'm holding her by her neck like that, squeezing right here. Her voice box. I saw my dad do it to her. Anyway, she let go and I let go. And then she'd be like, I'm so sorry I did that. But I was scared of her. And then another time, like, she smacked me. And I told her, I was so sad. I got the phone book and I was like, I'm calling CPS and I'm telling them that you hit me and you're not feeding us. And she's like, good, call them. Nobody from CPS would want you anyways. And so I'm sitting there on the floor with the phone book, like looking through the pages, and I didn't really know how to use the phone book. I was just crying but literally just a few days after that, CPS took us away. But so CPS took us away, and also my dad and my uncle, they put in like 22 CPS reports, which it wasn't good for us to, it wasn't good. And also my grandma, so it wasn't good for us to live there. And also the school teachers were concerned because like we were dressing ourselves and my mom was passed out. And so like it'd be snowing and we wouldn't have a jacket on, but we lived right up the road from the school, but still. And then like there was a day my brother Jesse, who's a year and a half younger than me, came without shoes on. And so like CPS was making a bunch, like they were noticing stuff. But they did nothing about the molestation. Like if they did that, my mom would have been okay. Anyways, so CPS took us away, and my mom said that she knew that CPS was going to take us away, but that we were supposed to go with my grandma Gigi, my great grandma. Well, my grandma Gigi, she has a temper on her because the social workers weren't doing anything, and they were like really nasty too. And my great grandma called the lady a rat faced bitch and threw a trash can at her, like an empty trash can. Yeah, Grandma Gigi was pretty crazy. She had very short temper, very like she cussed at the judge, was held in contempt of court, was when we'd have to, like a lot of bad things, like when with the CPS we'd have to constantly go to court, and it'd be my mom on one side, it was horrible. But during that time, so anyways, we found out my grandma said that she was contacted, and CPS said that we're going to split up the kids. We're taking away the kids, but we're splitting them up. And my grandma was like, okay, well, I'll take the kids. And keep in mind, my grandma, like, she was retired at this point. She's working in middle schools and as a teacher beforehand, and she retired. She has a condo in Maui. And so she actually came back from Maui, bought another house here because she was a teacher and also did real estate. And she'd like rent out her houses and stuff. But so she came back and she bought a 5-bedroom house because she literally thought that when everything cooled down, my dad and his wife would be able to live with us. After CPS had said, no, you have to know that he cannot live there, and grandma still let them stay there too. So anyways, so my grandma heard that we were being taken away and split. She's like, okay, so I'll take them. And it was so scary. The day that we were taken away by CPS is so ridiculous. Like the cops were so like, what a joke, dude. What a joke. The cops came and CPS came, and I was holding on to my mom. The cops literally grabbed me, ripped me from my mom, and my mom was crying hysterical. And then they found the shotgun. I think I told you about that with the and they're like, oh, she's got a gun. My mom didn't have it on her. It was in the living room. And so it was absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And then we get pulled outside, and the social workers, one's name is Rachel Scott, the other's is Don Watson. And this is in Vancouver, Washington in the 2000s. And some other social worker, we're walking outside and everything's in slow-mo. And it was so scary. That was like the worst type of dissociation I've had. Everything was in slow-mo. I look at the house and I'm walking away. We're walking to the car. And the CPS lady's like, oh, what do you guys want? Like talking to her, like what you just did was so easy, to rip a child from a mother. Yeah. And it was insane. And then they took us and we were and my mom had no idea that we were going to be taken, because CPS told her something different, said that we were going to go to Grandma Gigi or my Nana's house. Anyways, we went to this house, and I was so afraid, dude, because there were times that she had like she'd call, and this is after the molestation, and she was like trying to separate me from my mom, because she was living in Hawaii, and she's like, oh, do you want to come to Hawaii? You want to come to Maui? And before this had happened, we had already went to Maui with her once before as kids. She's like, do you remember boogie boarding? Do you remember the pool? It was so much fun. You can come here, but you can't tell your mom. And like all kinds of weird things, like as if that they were planning to take me away, but not tell my mom where I was. Anyways, I ended up telling my mom, and that was before CPS took us away. But anyways, so we went to my grandma's house, and I was so terrified, dude. I was so terrified because I was just so scared, because my dad, I was so terrified of him, and this was his mom, and I had heard stories about her and I mean, when I was a little girl, I had a relationship with her when I was really little. So like that picture I sent you. But yeah, so anyways, the first night I was there, I called my mom, and what ended up happening was CPS said that I wasn't allowed to see my dad, that was the rules for me living there. Well, my grandma, so she had started working again at the middle school, had got that job again that she had worked already in the past for, and had so oops so yeah, so she had gotten that job again, and as kids we started going there again. But my grandma would have my dad stop by and then hold food over my head. And anytime I'd call my mom, tell my mom, like, oh, I'm having to see my dad and hug him for me to eat dinner, because my grandma, like, no, you have to hug your dad, you have to give him a kiss, and you have to be downstairs. And he would be right by the dinner table. And this is right when I was taken away. And there were times that I was like, no, I'm just not going to eat. And I'll go upstairs and there was no dinner. No, nothing for that night. And then I would be like punished throughout the week for not seeing him. And I would tell teachers that my grandma was friends with. Keep in mind, like, she was working at that school previously for like 25 years, so she knew everybody at the school. But I would tell them, I'd be like, hey, so my dad molested me and my grandma's forcing me to see him, and CPS says it's not okay. Can you please help me? I'm scared of him. And the teachers just ignored me. My grandma would come and would be like, oh, don't believe Haylee. Haylee's telling lies. And because my grandma felt like what her son did was a reflection of her and her parenting. But my grandma, you'll see throughout that she covers for my dad still to this day. Like, it's really insane. Anyways, yeah, so she'd tell teachers, and the teachers didn't believe me. I would tell CPS. Now, right after we were taken away, he'll sit here. My grandma's holding food above my head. My grandma would come in and be like, no, did have to stop by to fix something, but Haylee was allowed to eat, and all these things. And then this is in the same time period that was talking about how grateful she was that had let her stay in her condo in Hawaii to get married. Not only that, but with Don Watson. So these are CPS social workers that had made deals and agreements with my grandma to stay at her condo in Maui, in Kahana Sunset, so, and to get married on it, which is like. And then anytime I would try to, tell them that something was happening, my grandma would just come in and they just wouldn't believe me. So, yeah, I didn't get any help from them. And then on top of that, my mom, the only way we would see her is through supervised visits. Because the state, they were like, and, my mom was using pills during this time period. Like, there were a few visits where she was like face first passed out, and I'd like poke her and be like, mom, they're writing on the paper that you're sleeping and that you're high. I saw it. And she'd be like, shh. So yeah, she didn't act like herself, especially during this time period. But then here's another thing too. So my mom was also on like all kinds of medications, not just pain meds, but like all kinds of things. And they told her that if she wanted us kids back, that she'd have to be off everything, like everything, and admit that she's a drug addict. And my mom didn't think that she was a drug addict. She thought, she's like, oh, I just have pain. And sorry, I'm looking for a tissue. She thought that she just had pain, because the doctors, in the early 2000s, they gave like everybody like candy, the Oxycontin. So yeah, but my mom told us, she's like, Haylee, I'm not going to be able to get you back, because a mommy can't get off this medication. And I was angry. I was so pissed off. And then my grandma Nola had left paperwork to try to turn me against my mom. Now, my mom did do things that were not okay, but I know who my mom really is. I remember that mom. I remember it. But my grandma Nola purposefully let paperwork. My mom got diagnosed with Munchausen by proxy. So, which she didn't have. But that was one of the main reasons. And they said like all kinds of things about her, that she had Munchausen by proxy, because us kids were going in and getting like exams, because I had PTSD and was having seizures. And my dad's like, no, everything's fine, to cover his ass. And so, but it's crazy. CPS really had covered up and then gave us to. And there was tons of times that we were with my dad, and so, and then during the same time period, so I was constantly like basically programmed to not talk about it, because every time I'd be called a liar. I would be punished like passive aggressively. There was like a family, it was like a family reunion. We went, was just staying away from me. Like anytime I'd go near a table to get food, they would just like go to the opposite direction. I was like, Grandma, what's going on? Everyone's running away from me. And my grandma like smirks and holds her head up in her nose, and she's like, everyone's afraid that you're going to say that they molested you. And I like, at that moment, I was like, I can't talk about this. People are literally believing my dad and my grandma, and she won't step up for me. And here's another thing too. My dad admitted to her that he did this. He said that, oh yeah, I stuck my finger in her. Yeah. And then my mom had talked about how he raped her. And my grandma's like, no, you can't rape your wife. I went through that. So she went through it with Mike, where he forced herself on her too. And she's like, hey, you just got to do it. That's just what women do in the 60s. And it's like, it's not the 60s. Yeah. And even that time, it's not okay. So there's tons of excuses. So aside from this, we were living at my grandma's house, and we were basically like, and my dad too, he seemed like a totally different person. Okay. Like during this time period too, like he had a new wife, he's got a job, that's great. He's got a house, he's got like all these things. And he seems like a totally different guy. Like he was so sober. He wasn't using meth or steroids at this time period anymore. So I was like, okay, I gaslit myself, because everybody around me is saying, no, your dad did not molest you. Your mom told you to say these things, which is, not true. And I just was like, okay, I just can't talk about this. And maybe my dad isn't so bad after all. And he is funny. He is a narcissist. And I believe a sociopath, but he is a narcissist. He thinks he's smarter than everybody, and he has such he's so charismatic and funny that people swarm to him. Like it's very weird. And so people, and they see that, just that side of him. And yeah, so I thought like, maybe, everything's changed, it's not the same. Like, and so I like gaslit myself for years, being like, yeah, well, maybe he did think I was mom, and it was the drugs and all that stuff. But I kept pushing down that memory of him holding me with the two guys. And I'd have other memories too. And then he like had other memories too in that house, where like I'd be in the bathtub and I'd pull out my drawer. So the doors in this house, if you leaned on them a little bit, even if they're locked, they'd pop open. So I had pulled out the cupboard drawer that like hit the door. So when the door opened, it just hit it, so you couldn't get in. Well, my dad would push it back like this, so the drawer would close, and so he could get in, and I'd be in the bathtub. And I'd see him come in, and then total darkness, nothing, like no memory. It's like a chunk of memory was gone for hours. And then I'd wake up on my mom's bed, butt naked, and then he'd be walking out of the room. And I had tons of memories like that, And I think that I have them hidden down somewhere, you know what I mean? But yeah, so anyway, and that was in the like haunted house as a kid. My dad has not molested me since, or hit me or anything like that. He has like really tried to be a different person and to hide his past, because he has a new wife. But his wife, like, he had raped her, pulled her out of bed. Yeah, pulled her out of bed. She had just given birth to, I think it was Madeline, second kid. And it was still like, I think it was like a year, or like 9 months, in between 9 months to a year after she gave birth. But she would sleep in bed with the kids, and he dragged this one while remembering my oldest sister. I hope not. I hope none of them remember it. But so, and then he said it was because he was on drugs, because he took baclofen, because he ripped his shoulder. So, but it's like it's a constant pattern for him. And not only that, like he was sexually abused as a child in the bathtub and in the bed. So he, so like the shower stuff, uh, it it's like him kind of reacting out his abuse. Um, but yeah, so that had happened, and but that's years later, after everything seemed normal, after we moved in and everything seemed normal with my dad. But I was still so angry, and my grandma, time I'd have to go see my mom, my grandma purposefully like organize a like us to go to Disneyland or something like that, which is awesome and amazing, but she would purposely take it out of my mom's time because she hated my mom. She hated my mom. Um Hated my mom so much. Like my grandma had asked my mom to get abortions and to pay for the abortions when each time my mom got pregnant. Yeah. Yeah. Um, but so yeah, that had happened, and I just got really actually like they from watching me, they were like, "Oh, I can't say anything." They realized like, "Oh, you get bullied and ostracized by the family and by the community if you continue to speak about this." So they learned to not talk about it and to just repress it. Um, So, anyways, my brothers, they have not talked about it since. And they actually ended up going to live with my dad. And it's everybody needs a dad in their life. Everybody does. It's so important, and especially for boys, to show them how to be men. And women need, girls need dads too. But it's really important for my brothers. And so my brothers ended up moving in with my dad and my stepmom. And I stayed with, and it was a battle. Like I was really I was such an angry kid. Well, like preteen teenager. I was so angry, and I was so angry. I was angry with my mom. I was angry, and then like it was just really really tough. So that's what my childhood was like.
Do you remember? I know that you said during school, obviously the GATE program, and I know you don't have
Yeah.
full memories of that. Were there other
Yeah.
locations besides there in school that you were taken for abuse
Um
or programming that you
uh
remember?
I don't remember, but I remember, and it's so weird how I remembered all of this. Like I remembered that class, but there was parts of that class that I didn't remember. But uh, those he posted a thing on the headphones, and it's like I looked at the headphones, and all these memories started like coming at me. And but no, I don't remember being at another location. I just remember it being in like its own little private, like it's so weird. It was like a room that was like that they separated just for us kids. And there was like three rooms that were, so it was, there was like the room for the weird head testing that they, or like earphone testing things. The It wasn't, and here's another thing too, it wasn't just sounds. I believe that that's where my first abuse, mind control stuff started, because I believe they were testing frequencies on me even back then. Um, yeah, and during this time period too, like I had really weird things happen, and I don't know if it's like I would astral project a lot. I would be able to, I had very, very bizarre things that had happened to me. I was like able to sense things. I would have dreams of things before they would happen. And it's like that class had disrupted that. Like it took those gifts that I had from God and like just scrambled it, made it so I can't connect with that part of me that was like, and I felt like I was connected to God even more through those gifts, because it was like he could communicate with me through things. Um, but Yeah, no, I don't remember. And this is a very odd thing too. I barely remember anything after putting the headphones on other than the noise. And it was 3 days a week for like that whole year. And then we ended up switching schools. And after that, so it was just a year in this time period. And then, but here's another weird thing too is that kindergarten, but I'm not totally sure. But I had other memories with those headphones. But all I remember is like we'd go in this room. There'd be a lady sometime, and it was 3 days a week. And there was like rotate between these two women, and they would sometimes read books to us, and then have us read books, like, and just pass a little book around and read it. And then there would always be a kid. One of us would rotate into this back room and have these headphones on. And I just remember that as soon as the headphones, it felt like there's all these sounds from different directions and all kinds of things. And then after that, I wouldn't remember much of anything after putting the headphones on. And then I'd go home and I felt like I was in a trance. I felt like I was like being put in a trance from this, the like frequencies, And I felt like that also was making me disassociate so, so much. Like not only the trauma as a kid, but the headphones, whatever was being done was splitting me eyelid. And not only that, I was having severe migraines and seizures. Every time I'd go home after, this was like 3 days a week, I was having grand mal seizures all the time, even with the Depakote. So, and that's why we started going to Dr. Gironi, and he was, not good. But yeah, it's very weird because I don't remember much after that. So yeah.
And then were there other locations, just in general, that abuse took place besides school, at home?
Yeah. I mean, I don't. Yeah, but it wasn't with my parents. Like there was this guy, so they thought that I had lupus too when I was younger. Um, so he's a lupus doctor. His name was Dr. Griffin, and he gave me a vaginal exam when I was 11 and stuck his fingers in me and was like, yeah, yeah. And he was old too. He was like in his 80s. It was disgusting. And I was so embarrassed, and I couldn't tell my grandma, like, because this is after we were taken away by CPS, and like he's just like, okay, we're gonna give you a breast exam, now we're gonna do a pelvic exam. And it was disgusting because I could see a bulge in his pants. Stu's disgusting. And even before that, so my mom went to him, and my mom had always said he was a pervert and a weirdo too, but like I didn't say anything because I was like, oh, whatever, this is just what doctors do. Until being an adult, and I'm like, no, that's abuse. Like there's quite a few incidences that I look back and I'm like, yeah, that was abuse. And also, I've yeah, I've had quite a few incidences, like as a teenager too. I was really angry. I started like smoking weed and going to parties, and uh I was just so, so angry, and I felt like weed and substances were like a way for me to be able to just be okay and sit in my body with the trauma. It made it so I was like, okay, I'm not disassociating. I'm not like uh, feel like I'm gonna pop out of my body, because a lot of the times my disassociation is so bad that so I was diagnosed with depersonalization and derealization. So objects, I cannot, like, they don't look real. It feels literally like, when you're having a lucid dream and that things aren't real, but they like, it's just weird feeling like you can't connect with it. Like, so it doesn't feel, so I have that. And then also like myself and other people, like when I try to connect with other people, like I just feel like I can't connect with them because I'm so disassociated. Like everything kind of looks weird. And then when I look at myself in the mirror, I have no idea who I'm looking at. Like, cause I just, it's like I have no connection to myself, to like my body and my mind, like in order to survive, it like had to separate, you know? So yeah, but I had other instances anyways where it was really stupid and I was young. I was like date raped and had things where like that, like being drugged. There's this guy who's in the military. I was so young and stupid, and he said we were going to go to a party. He said we were going to go to a party, and then he's like, oh, we're going to stop by my house. At first, I have no idea how old this guy actually was. I thought at the time that he told me he was like 25, 26, but I really have no idea. Anyways, we go to his house, and he's like, oh, I already made you a drink, and it was like this weird slushy drink, and it tasted kind of weird, but I'm like, whatever. And he said, we're going to drink first, and then we're going to go, because we'll go to the party, so it'll just be, really messed up when we show up there. And I like, after taking the drink, I like woke up to like moving, and I'm on a bed, and this dude is raping me. And I like passed back out. I woke back up, and like I'm trying to like say stop, but I can't like talk. I'm like blah, blah, pass back out again. It felt like forever, because I kept passing out, waking up, and I don't even remember how I got home or what. I don't. And we obviously didn't go to a party. I mean, if we did, I literally would not have remembered. Anyways, I contacted the guy like 2 or 3 days later, and this guy, he was military too. Yeah. And he found me. It was really creepy. He found me on Facebook, and like, I was just so stupid and dumb. But yeah, he had it was all, I'm sure that's something that he just does. But anyways, after I like a few days afterwards, because it took me like 3 or 4 days to even feel normal and to like be able to think afterwards, and I was like, that was rape. He like raped me. And I messaged him, I was like, dude, I'm calling the cops on you. And he told me he was in the military, and I was like, I'm letting them know that you raped me. And he's like, I'll fucking kill you, bitch, or whatever. And then just deactivated his Facebook. And I had no number. I had no phone number because he contacted me over Facebook. No name, no nothing. And so, you know, I had like quite a I had like incidences like that where I'd be with people, or like, I'd be with, being like forced upon, and then I kind of would just be like, sometimes it was just like, okay, whatever, it's just gonna hurry up and go, and which made my dissociation even worse.
I know it seems like you really had no safe people in your life and you had all these red flags. I mean, what kid has PTSD? Like that alone should have been like a massive red flag that like you have PTSD in your child. Like you should be playing
Yeah,
and happy and like being a princess and you're being diagnosed
yeah,
with these things that, like military veterans get diagnosed with that have been in war. Did
yeah,
you ever have
yeah.
anybody at all ever show a glimpse of understanding that you were going through abuse or asking you about it? Did you ever have like a light in your life that came by and sort of acknowledged you?
Yeah, but they would like disappear pretty fast. My grandma would like get rid of them pretty fast. Like my mom, but my mom, after her splitting, or not, after her changing, like she just was not the same person ever again. She did still fight, but she was like so angry and broken, like shattered. Her soul and her spirit had shattered. Um, and I had like friends like I had this girl, her name was Ashley. I told her mom what was happening, and her mom reminded me a lot of my mom. Her mom was sick too, and she had like stomach surgery, and so she was laying down a lot in bed too, and she was a spitfire. And I told her, I was like, I'm scared, I don't want to go home. I think I was molested, and I'm afraid that it's going to happen again. And I told her about what's going on, how my grandma would like hold food over us, and it was like in the beginning, she wasn't able to hold it over us like that long. Um, so probably like a year. But yeah, I told her what had happened, and she was like, you're not going home, you're staying here. Well, here's the thing, I was a ward of the state. I was never adopted. So the state owned me basically. So I was in the foster care system all the way till 18. But anyways, she called my grandma. She's like, I'm not letting Haylee go home with you. I'm not doing it. She's seeing her dad. You are the parent. You should know better. And all it just starts freaking out. Well, what did she tell you? And she said, well, yeah, she was molested. And Noah was like, no, she didn't. Haylee wasn't molested. She's lying. She's a liar. And my grandma is a covert narcissist. So she knows how to not only speak to people, but she has like all these positions in society that people would think of somebody who's nurturing, who's helpful, who loves kids, who, stands up for what's right and all these things. So, I quickly just became the bad kid that was lying. So, yeah, and when I tell counselors wouldn't believe me, which is insane because they are mandated reporters. I would tell the counselor that was also at the school I went to and the middle school I went to and wasn't believed. And then after that, I just I just didn't really have anybody until I was an adult. And even then, my partner for sure, but I felt like I couldn't fully tell what was happening just because of like the events that had happened. So no, not really.
So sad. And the thing that's unique about your story too, a lot of the children that have gone through similar abuses and programming are so dissociated from it that they don't remember until they're, well into adulthood, a lot of times,
Yep.
sometimes, into their older years. You're sitting here disclosing and like openly sharing what's happening to people and just constantly being gaslit and told that like it's all in your head, or even, your dad saying, I thought you were your mom, like
Yeah.
how terrible to have to experience that as a kid and to just feel like nobody listens, And I find that that's
Yeah.
such a big thing in society. People always say, well, why did you wait all these years to tell? Well, for one, you're dissociated from the memories, but for two,
Yep.
even kids that do share, they're not believed. Children are
Yep.
told their imagination, and it's usually people around them that are abusive. And so, yeah, like, of course, if you have like a grandparent or a parent who's coming forth and being like, oh, Haylee always does that. She has an active imagination. She's constantly making stuff up, or she's a bad kid. Like adults
Yeah.
believe other adults too and don't realize that the
Yep.
adults are protecting themselves and lying on
Yep.
behalf of the child. And I just think it's so terrible that you had that so much because you were actually able to disclose, like you actually had some of your memories and were able to share
Yeah.
and still didn't have people that stood up for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's horrible. Because there are a lot of people that are so disassociated and stuff. The weird thing though is like I am having, so I'm 31 now, and I am having like memories flood in of things, and I believe like the older I feel like part of me is protecting myself from those memories that are like blacked out, because they're like perfect, like cookie cutter blackout, like as if you just edited the memory and just took that chunk out. It's so weird. And I have tons of those in that house. Um, but yeah, and that's the other thing too, that like with generational abuse, um, there's a lot of people that are like, see it and are afraid to even speak out. Like they weren't, it's so weird. And I believe it's part of the disassociation and, where they just abuse the person so much and then they show them, oh, look, no one's going to believe you. So there's no point in talking about it. You just shut up and you let the abuse go on and you cover up for when it continues. So that's like with my grandma. She, she's a lot better now. She has admitted that she believes me now, and she says that she just can't fathom it. And she has told me in the recent years that she was abused and how it changed her. And it's almost like she's a robot, like she's so disconnected from her emotions that like you could just see it. Yeah.
Now, was your father, I know you had Freemasons in your family. Did your father ever get involved with secret societies, or did that sort of stop at the grandparent level?
So I believe there's a possibility that he was, just because of how CPS and the police had let him get away with things.
Mm.
Um, so, but I'm not totally for sure. And also his dad, this is really weird. So he said that his dad, and so did my grandpa, he said that they were training with the CIA and that he said that he was helping children from being trafficked. But it was very odd because it's like, I don't know, it's just really confusing. And then my dad had said that he went with him sometimes to do training. So I don't know. But my dad knows an awful lot about the Freemasons and these rituals. And not only that, his dad, so my grandma and grandpa, when they were younger and they had kids, they were actually approached to be Freemasons too. And my grandma said no, that the dude was sketchy. And because he, and, but I don't know about Mike. I do believe that Mike could have been one without a doubt. Like if you knew him, yeah. So, but there's no proof about that. But we still have like the Freemason like pendants and things that belonged to my great great grandpa, which I want out. I don't want those need to be thrown away. But my grandma won't throw them away.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the generational stuff, like you said, it really is key. It's almost like a business. I've heard that
Yeah.
referenced by a couple of people on my podcast. It's like a family business, but instead of it being like a brick and mortar that's public, it's something that's like kept in the home and
Yep.
passed down generationally. And so people on the outside can't see it and don't look at it that way. But that's exactly what's happening in the home. And then, of course, they're going to protect each other because if one person gets implicated, then the rest of the entire network that, from the generations that are still alive above all the way down to the children are also implicated, and it exposes the whole family. And so you can really see in your family how that was done, whether it was on purpose or whether it was, programming where they, like how you said, your grandma is just
Yeah.
now starting to be more vulnerable and to admit things, where back then she was
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
going through so much turmoil herself that she couldn't face it. And so she denied it, gaslit, and did everything
Yeah.
she could to like push that out of the way. So people on the outside wouldn't look at it. And then also so you guys wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is it's like it's hard to tell if it is purposeful or if it was programming because um I just would imagine you would have to be programmed if you were abused, and then to let more abuse happen to other children in your family line. And also, that's another part of this too, is my grandma, one of the reasons why she also took us in, she told us this, was because it was her second chance at being a mom. Her life fell apart. So she was like married young, had kids young, and my grandpa was out cheating. He was gone all the time, like, like all the time. And my grandma, when she was and all the and like that's just what she did. And my both aunts were in it too. But so she's constantly busy. And then Mike, he worked on a dock, like on like a boat, like loading and unloading. And he was just gone, and he was sleeping with all of her friends. And my grandma was like a control freak, and she thought that if she had control of like what was seen, then everything would be fine. And I heard stories of her literally going into her closet, and crying, and then coming out and being like, everything's fine. But my dad had shared that like throughout most of his childhood, my grandma would be in the closet crying, and then would come out and act like everything's fine. And she'd act like a different person when she would walk out, you know, but trying to control the narrative so that people don't see her as vulnerable. And she hates looking weak. Um, and then from there, he like left her. He was like, I'm getting a divorce. And very weird things with him too, like creepy things. But Yeah, my grandma, she ended up living in her mom's basement for years, and went back to school, ended up getting her master's degree in mathematics, and literally had to start up from scratch at like 40 because she didn't have any education, and he left and she had to get a job. But the kids went with him, and uh, he treated the kids like crap. Like he left my dad when my dad was like 11 or 12, maybe a little older than that. But basically, he had a house and then was like, oh, I paid the last month's rent and just left. So my dad was homeless for a period of time as a kid. So it's like, yeah, so it's a lot of messed up stuff. And then Aunt Holiday, she was in college during that time period. And Aunt Laura, I don't remember where she was, but it's like a lot of the structure and like providing an emotional and physical. Oh, and then also like Mike would abuse, like physically abuse my dad and my grandma too. I don't know about my aunts, but yeah. And then here's another weird thing too. So my Aunt Holiday, this was like probably say like 7 or 8 years ago. She came over and she's like, she married a doctor who was like up like Catholic, and they were obsessed with the Jesuits. It's a very weird thing. Like, this is a whole other part. It's not really my story. Well, part of it is, but she ended up getting divorced, and she's like, I want you to come on a walk with me. And I was like, okay. And she told me, she's like, I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry because I molested your dad as a child. So yeah, it was a huge thing. Yeah. So it was, that's where I'm, when I said the incest, like, it's somebody had to have touched her for her to do that to my dad. And she's like, maybe if I didn't do that, maybe he wouldn't have done that to you. So I'm sorry. And she and my other aunt have no contact with my grandma because they saw what was happening. They knew what my dad had done to my mom and to us kids. And then my grandma, she like would cover up for him and then like bought him a house, still pays his rent to this day. She's 80 something years old, still having to like work and to pay off for her son because he treats her like shit, like absolute garbage, dude, absolute garbage. And like blames her for his childhood. So, but he's a grown ass man who, and then it's, yeah, it's a big thing. It's a lot. But yeah, I feel sorry for my grandma. There are a lot of things that she did that hurt me, but I do feel really sorry for her.
It's really sad how this happens, and you see how there's still a lot of times, like you mentioned, multiple examples of all involved in your family who had moments of being human and who showed you love and who, you see that over and over again
Yeah.
with your mom, that she failed so many times to protect you, but you see how her spirit was fighting so hard to you and deep inside of her that she wasn't aligned with it, but she was so manipulated and mind
Yeah.
controlled and so weakened herself, not to mention how, the size difference between her and your father and how long they had known each other, how long he had to groom her, how
Yep.
long she was groomed before she even met him. And you see
Mm-hmm.
just like how this like weakened state affects the next generation and how parents eventually lose their own will to be able to actually just put a stop to it and to like stand up for it, and you see how easily that gets passed down. You even mentioned at the very beginning that your childhood, you just thought that was normal to be touched, that families just touched each other inappropriately and, had very sort of like sexual relations with each other, that was just normal for you. You grew up around it and it was just normal in your family. You saw all family members sort of associating with each other that way to some degree or protecting it with each other, making excuses for it. And so you see how even like that grooming from such an early age, if that's all that it like really embeds itself in your unconscious mind to where it's something that is very easy later on in life to accept as still being normal and something that you should do without proper like, without not denying it, admitting it and healing from it and being able to face it, how easy it is to just be like, you know what, I'm just going to go with the flow. There's been way too many generations of this. I don't want to be the outcast and the weird one to like stand up and like, especially when they just gaslight me. I'm just going to go with
Yeah.
the flow and just, do whatever I'm told and not fight back and not say anything, not speak out, not tell anybody. And it's really sad because this happens to so many families and society has like such a hard time grasping how this can happen and how parents can't stand up for kids and how kids grow up to be abusive as adults, and I think like your story is like such a testament to showing the humanity in people while also not giving excuses to the fact that, nobody stopped it before you, that you were the one that came by. And even as a child was resisting it and being like, wait, this isn't right. This isn't right. And everybody's
Yeah.
like, no, it is. Go with it. Don't say anything. Don't talk. And, I'm so
Yeah.
proud of where you're at today. And that little girl that was in those photos is beaming at you for speaking on behalf of her and for being that voice that she didn't have growing up. And it's really awesome that you're able to give that gift to her and that you're giving it to all and so many other kids who didn't have that and who still don't have it to this day. I really appreciate
Thank
you
you.
sharing all these like really vulnerable moments with us, Haylee. You're so
Thank
brave and
you.
courageous.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. I have like such a disconnection. It's so weird because like I feel like my inner oh no. Oh, okay, sorry. That's such a funny picture. That was
So
actually
cute.
me on my first day at preschool or kindergarten, and I was so excited. I was so excited to meet friends that I was like doing this, and I
So
just was so
cute.
excited. And my mom, it was like the first day, and my mom came. My mom was like really involved, and she came and like took pictures with me the first day. And yeah, but
So cute.
thank you. Yeah, it's really weird because I feel like my inner child's like a totally different person. You know what I mean? Like I literally and it sounds so weird to say, but I just feel like it's really weird when I talk about the things in my life. Yeah, I felt like it's so weird. Can't it's like I can't feel what that child felt, you know? And so like it's really weird. Like when I look at that picture, I have no connection to it. Like there was a memory, but it doesn't feel like me. It feels like I'm telling a story of somebody else. And I felt that what's really weird is I felt it's like being in like a weird, almost like I'm dreaming, you know? Um, and it's hard. It's really hard. I hope more than anything, well, a couple things. One of the things that I really hope for is that I will feel like all the parts of me will come back together and that I could feel whole and actually like feel and like that part of me can heal, you know, that my inner child and that it can heal and like not feel so abused and neglected because as a child I felt very different than others. Like I felt like just being around other kids, I just knew I was different. And this is really, really like messed up too. But after being molested, this is really embarrassing, but I'm just gonna say it because a lot of people go through this. Um, I, so after being molested, I would go to friends' house. This is so embarrassing. Um, I would think that their dad was gonna touch me. So I would literally be like, I want so embarrassing. I'd be like, I want you to touch me. It's so embarrassing even saying. But like I thought this is so creepy, but it just shows that like I was groomed, you know, that like oh if I it's so weird, it's so weird and disgusting. Um, but yeah, I would get crushes on full grown men and want them to touch me and do things that are not appropriate because that's what I was like groomed to do, you know.
Yeah, it was
And
normal for you.
yeah, so embarrassing. Like as that like I just couldn't imagine any kid doing that. But it's so weird because it just feels different. Like with me, it feels like I don't deserve to heal. It feels like I feel worthless and like I don't matter. And I felt that way as a kid, and I felt so disgusting. I can't even tell you the filth, that disgusting feeling that you get from being molested, but by a family member. It is so disgusting, so disgusting. And I still get that nasty feeling. It's like if I could, I would hop out of my body or I'd rip off my skin. I wouldn't feel that way. But it's a disgusting feeling. It's so disgusting. And like it's really sad. I get it even when I wear makeup or I look pretty, and then I'll be like, oh, people are looking at me, and I feel that disgust. It is this nasty, filthy, disgusting, like, it's so nasty. It's like filth. I feel like I have filth all over me, and I didn't do anything wrong, but I've had that since I was a kid, and like, I still get it. I hope that that goes away, and I hope that I can feel whole and like love my inner child, because I have neglected that child. I feel like a part of me speaking out will help that, but it feels like it's a whole other, like, it's not even me. It feels like a whole other person. Like, um I mean, like, I know it was me, but it felt like I wasn't even in my body then. So it feels like it was a dream. So it's very weird. It's very confusing, but it's disassociation.
And I think a lot of people experience that. And so I really appreciate your vulnerability because, I think people also who are struggling think that, oh my gosh, I'm never going to feel good, and this person seems so healed and I'm not. And it's like
Yeah.
it's a long game, like it's a lifetime thing to heal from this type of abuse, and it's so sad that even as a child you had to have these horrific thoughts about yourself. Like I said, you should have been out like playing and
Yeah.
being a princess and not having a care in the world except like getting your homework done. And you're having to contend
Yeah.
with trying to feed yourself, having rotten lettuce in the freaking refrigerator being passed around to different homes and family members, and obviously all the abuse. And it's so sad that you had to feel those things as a child. Like you never deserved that, and you were never worthless. That in itself is a program. You were always worth everything, and some people that should have been giving that to you didn't. And so I also wish that healing on you because you're so full of life and you're such a beautiful person inside and out, and you have so much to give the world, and your testimony matters and your story matters, and it's going to change lives, and you're just getting started on your journey. And I think everybody listening can see all the potential that you have still inside of you that's just waiting to blossom and bloom.
Thank you.
I'm
That
sorry.
really means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
And so we have a whole part two that we're going to
Yep.
talk about on the next episode. And I'll let, if you had something else to say, I just wanted to let people know that Haley's story isn't done and there's a lot of
Oh, no
beauty
worries.
that has
Yeah.
happened. And so we're gonna have a whole part two where you guys will get to see some of her healing journey and, still the things that she struggles with, getting away from that abuse and like the new abuse that occurred. So I wanted to give you space to share anything else that you wanted to talk about before we wrap today's episode up.
Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you so much again. Honestly. Uh I feel I'm very grateful. I'm very, very grateful to have done this interview with you. And it's a part of me is healing the more that I'm speaking about this, because the disassociation makes it's like I haven't full like I know it happened, but I haven't fully accepted it. But I know it happened. It's a very weird thing. But the more that like I'm able to talk about it and people are like, uh, you know, believe me, and I could just tell everything that had happened, it feels like a part of my inner child is being heard, because she's just been so neglected, and it's almost like, I don't know, like a part of me have just felt like dead inside, because when you go through something that's like serious abuse like this, and then not talking about it is like one of the worst things for me, and for a lot of people too, because we need community, and the more that this is spoken about, the more that people are going to see that this stuff happens. It could be any home, anywhere, in any neighborhood that this stuff is happening, or in any school. And a lot of people also believe, that it's just that it's impossible for, these things to happen in their city and with people they know, but it happens. It happens, and these are, It's unfortunate, it's awful, it's terrible. And I just really hope that others who go through this, that they are going to have the courage, not just courage, but the strength to tell somebody their story or to write down their story, um, or email me or talk to you, or just, to get it out so that they can start healing, you know, after, because usually with abuse, you're told, no, that didn't happen by the abusers, or you're told to keep quiet. And it's, God tells us to not be like the darkness, but expose it. That's a command. And I really hope that by doing this, that this will reach somebody out there that is going to feel encouraged to share their story.
That's exactly what it's doing. And you've really inspired me by your own courage and bravery and conviction to come forth and talk. I really appreciate you, Haylee, and thank you so much for all the support that you've given over the years too. Like you've been such a constant with this podcast, and I don't even think a lot of people that have engaged with you even knew that you had a story because you just came in and were so supportive of everybody else, which was really beautiful, but now it's our turn to support you and to give that gift back to you. So I just
Thank
thank you
you.
with all my heart for coming on here, and I'm already looking forward to part two. I know it'll be a difficult conversation, but much needed and very healing for both of us and for people listening. And so
Yes.
we'll have your email in the show notes. Did you want to share your Twitter, or did you want me to just put that in the show notes too instead of sharing it here?
Will you put it in the show notes, because I don't even know my exact handle?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And so you are on Twitter, so people can go follow you there. And Twitter can be a little chaotic, but it really is easy to find community. And to me, it's been like a huge asset for connecting with other survivors. And I see other survivors not feeling so alone because of that community.
Yes.
So I'll have your Twitter also. And Haylee, I thank you again so much for coming on, and I'm honored to get to share your story.
Thank you so much. God bless you, Emma. Thank you so much again. I cannot tell you how grateful I am. And I just know that this is going to help me heal so much. I really, really do. Thank you.
It's helping us all heal. And so you guys, please go support Haylee. Reach out if you guys have a puzzle piece, if you guys want to give her some words of encouragement, or if you have questions for her that could maybe help you based off what you heard today, please reach out. So many people feel alone, and it is sort of a rough time of year right now. So the more that we do connect, and the more that we reach out and let others know that we're not alone, and then also make ourselves less lonely by reaching out and not being alone ourselves, that leaves space for healing. So we'll have her information in the show notes. I can't thank you guys all enough on the other side of the screen for caring so much and for helping spread the word on these really important testimonies. Thank you guys so much. God bless you, and we will see you next time.